I'm having technical difficulties right now. Can anybody hear this? Something is going on with the mic, I think. Check. Can anybody hear what I am saying? This is a fine time for this shit to fuck up. Hello? Hello? Hi! That's a lot of fun when that fucks up. So, hopefully the mic is coming through okay. If people can hear me, then just kind of give me a thumbs up because this thing has been acting weird. Oh, good. Okay. So if the mayor can hear me, I know that I'm doing good because he would probably cuss me out or something. So I decided to get on here and just kind of like, this should be a video, like it should be a recorded video, but I hate recording and editing video so much that I just decided to make this live. So it's all the way live as evidenced by me fucking up the intro. So it is what it is. But I'm going to talk about two things in this video. I'm going to talk about the Lexington Comic-Con, and I want to talk about meeting Sam Raimi, and probably in that order too. No, I ain't been fooling with the mic. Is the thing about it. Like it just is what it is. Um. So first, I'd like to say I probably haven't been to a convention this big ever. So I don't really have a lot to compare this to, but I've been to a lot of conventions. I've been to probably close to 30, 40 conventions, somewhere in that realm, probably. And I'm pretty sure that this was the biggest crowd that I've ever seen at a convention. This to me kind of like reminded me what it would be like to go to like San Diego Comic Con or something like that. Like there was just masses of humanity, like just shit tons of people. Um, to give you an idea, like I don't know how many people are familiar with Rep Arena, but I'll try to paint a picture for you. So, like you pull up to Rep Arena, and there's like this huge kind of glass, partition that's all the way around the building. It's probably I don't know. I wouldn't even hazard a guess how big it is. Like the size of probably a football field is the front. And then so we got there, it opened at 10. Me and the kids, Savannah, all got there at around 10:30, okay? Which was a huge mistake. We should have got there at about 9, but I thought, fuck 10:30, like people will be kind of like moved in some by then. It won't be that bad. Oh no. No, no, no. So the line went from the door. So imagine a football field. It went all the way down there. Then it went down. There was like a set of 4 to 5 flights of stairs. It went down that, then around like a little, outside veranda thing, then back up 4 more flights of steps, and then down probably another 500 feet to a hotel. That was the line that we had to wait in at 10:30 in the morning. So it took a solid hour just to get in to the building, which I've never experienced before. Like, I mean, we've had to wait like a couple of times at a couple of different shows that we've been at, maybe like, you know, 20 minutes, something like that. I mean, so I was already just kind of like, because you just see that many people, man, and you just know you're in for a bad day. You're just like, this is not, this is not going to go well because that place is it's big, but it's not that big. And there was you could see so many people, and there were people behind us stretched out for like, I don't even know, probably like a quarter of a mile. And scratch burno, it smelled exactly like you would think it smelled. Like I ran into several situations where I was like, ah yes, there is the convention smell that I was so missed by not going to these shows. Um I didn't really miss it, and I didn't really miss going to conventions, and this kinda reminded me of why, and so there's so many people, and I'm not exaggerating when I say this, 6 inches in any direction, you were, like, touching somebody. So when you walked in to the actual building, when we actually got into the building. Oh, by the way, there's another funny part of this story too. The wind that day, there was like a wind advisory, so it was like the wind was blowing like 30 or 40 miles per hour. So we're all outside. My fucking hair is like, looks like I got shot in the head, like, and it came out the other side. So by the time we get in the building, we're just a mess anyway. And then there's another line, like when you walk into the building, then there's one of those like Z formation lines that just to get up to show your tickets to somebody so you can get a lanyard that says you can be in the building. So, okay, that's another like 15 minutes that we waited. Um, but so far, everything like I wasn't like furious or anything at that point. I was just like uncomfortable and everything was hot and there was a mass of people, which, I don't have claustrophobia and I don't have like panic attacks or anything like that. There's just too many people in that fucking place. But if you did have anxiety or panic attack, like or were prone to have panic attacks, you would definitely be having one in this place. Um, here's the way that it's set up. So I walk in, I've got one thing to get signed, and that's this poster behind me here, which I wanted to get signed by Sam Raimi, my sole purpose, me for going there. The kids, they all dressed up and they had a good time and they walked around the vendors area and bought stuff and people complimented on their outfits, which is the main reason for going. But my main reason for going, and I thought foolishly that I could this would be okay. What's going on, John? Oh, by the way, thanks for everybody being in here. There's a ton of people in here. I just get caught up in these stories because I'm trying to like remember everything to tell the story decently. But Garrett's in here. It's great to see you, Garrett. Carlos, the mayor's in here. Ken Carlson, Mark Allen, Betamax, Saturn Video, Scratch Burno, TH Jamie, Ryan Atkins Ratkins, Alexander Lumberjack's in here. Movie Junkie John. Glad to have everybody in here. And Brandon wants to know what my thoughts are on. Thanks for the super chat, man. On Nicolas Cage's Dracula. I'll get to that as soon as I tell the story because I got ADD, and if I don't tell the story, I'll never like tell it. So we're coming back to that. So we get in there. There's 3 floors. This is actually a pretty good idea. If anybody in this convention, like the volunteers or the people organizing it, knew what the fuck they were doing, this would have been a great idea. So they've got the top floor, the third floor is your vendor area. The second floor is your photo ops, and the third floor or the bottom floor is your uh, celebrities. So I had to go all the way down the escalator to get to the bottom floor and go in this room, which you can't turn around in. This really bugged the piss out of me. It was like one flow of traffic, meaning you could only walk forward. You couldn't go backwards. You had to go like all the way around in like a circle if you wanted to get back in. That shows you how many people were at this thing. Like you couldn't well, even if you wanted to back up, you wouldn't have been able to anyway. Um it was just so you walk in there and they did something that I really liked. I give them credit for this. Like where each celebrity was like positioned when you walked in, they had like these I don't know, like plaques coming out that told you who they were. So rather than you having to like look at it from a straight angle, you could see like who was all the way down the line and who like you needed to meet. Um, and so it was pretty easy to find out where Raimi was at. I just had to follow you can only go forward. So I just followed it all the way to the end. And like there was his booth and he was going to sign and come back and sign at noon. I got there at like 11:40. I'm betting it was somewhere around in there. So when I walked into that line, I just got in his line and everybody else started like crowding in there like at the same time. And I was like maybe like 5 people back or something. And I was like, holy shit, man, this is going to be amazing. Like I'm going to get in here like super quick because folks, this is how like ignorant I am to the situation of Comic Cons now. Back when I was going to shows and paying for autographs and things like that, which I don't think I've paid for an autograph in over 5 years. But back when I was doing that, um, you just went up to the table and you bought an autograph from somebody that was usually like their manager, agent, handler, something like that at the table. That's just kind of how you did stuff. So I'm standing there, and then these guys start coming around, like the convention Nazi volunteer guys or whatever. And they're like, has everybody in the line got a prepaid ticket? Mind you, nowhere on their website, nowhere about Sam Raimi did it say a damn thing about getting a prepaid ticket. We looked, I looked, there was nothing like that mentioned at all on that website anywhere around him. So the only way you would know that is you had to walk up to this little table that was adjacent to where his booth was that had no shit on it really that said anything that you could see about like that being for, buying prepaid tickets for Sam Raimi. And I just like kind of walked around outside to figure out what the hell they were talking about. And there was a little booth with 2 people on it. And they were like, that's where you bought the prepaid autograph ticket. So this is how this worked. And I didn't figure out all of this until basically the end of the show, really. So I get up there, I go into the line to get the prepaid ticket, right? Because that's what you would do if somebody told you have to have prepaid tickets and there's a fucking booth for prepaid tickets, right? As soon as I get up there, the woman behind the thing is like, the woman giving out the prepaid tickets is like, all right, stop. Everybody, there's getting too much of a crowd on this side. Like, we've got to move all these people like to some other area. And she didn't say where this area was or anything, but she just said some other area. So I'm like, but she goes, you guys that are right here in front of me, you're fine. And I'm like, well, thank God. And then they just like escorted people off to some like unknown destination, like this mass of people that were standing there. And so I was like, what the frig? I still didn't get it yet. I didn't understand it, but I will here shortly. You'll see. And so no, there about Saturday video, there was no priority tickets, by the way. There was no way to buy anything on the website that you could get like a ticket in advance, which would have made so much more sense than what they were doing here. So she finally, after like talking to the Nazi volunteer guys, finally like decides to sell me a ticket. She sells me a ticket. And what do I do after that? What would make the most sense in the world in a situation where you just bought a prepaid ticket, good for one autograph? What would you do next? I foolishly got into the line that led to Sam Raimi. And I was about, it's like I said, it's like a Z formation kind of line where they got everything kind of roped off. I was at the end of that line and probably about 6 inches out into the convention floor, right? So I'm there for about 20 minutes with my ticket, and Nazi volunteer guy comes over and he's like, I can't have you blocking this area here. He's like, you've got to go. This is the first time I hear about this too, by the way. He goes, you've got to go downstairs to row 3. And I'm like, what in the fuck are you talking about? And I just stood there because I was really like trying to process like what he was saying. I said, well, can I just like scoot over? Like if I scooted over 6 inches, like I would be out of the way of anything. And he's like, no, we can't have you here. Like, and some mumbled some nonsense. And I just like, at that point, I was like, no. So I just turned and just like ignored him. And he's still standing there. And he's like, sir, you're going to have to move downstairs into row 3. I'm like, nobody else is moving downstairs into row 3. And he's like, what did he say exactly? I go, oh, he goes, if you don't, the next thing he says is, if you don't cooperate, it's such an interesting way to say that. Like this guy had to be a fucking like jailer or some sort of like volunteer something, cop or something. He goes, if you don't cooperate, then I'm going to have somebody come and take your badge away. I'm like, what the fuck is this? This is like, I said, is anybody else cooperating? And he's like, yes, they are. He goes, yes, they are. Like they've all gone like whatever. And I look around, and there's like all these people around me that are doing the same anyway. I was like, I just turned and walked because this is the type of guy that he would like. This is the type of guy in class if you were in school who would like fucking rat you out and you would get detention. So I'm like, whatever, I'm going downstairs. And what's downstairs? What the fuck is downstairs? Oh, this guy, how old was he, Rambo? I would say 30s, like early 30s, maybe late 20s, something like that. He had had like the sunglasses, the goatee, the like almost buzz cut, like the cop starter kit going. Um, but just shit like that. And I'm sure he probably did that to 50 people or more at that show. Anyway, I go from that point, I go down and I have no idea where I'm going. I have no idea why I'm going there. Keep that in mind because nobody's explained shit at this convention. That's apparently a thing. Yes, you're correct, Garrett. I go downstairs and I've dicked around upstairs for 20 minutes. So in that time, all the people that have bought those fucking tickets after me who have been escorted down there are in another line that I'm now at the end of. And that line is row 3. So there's row 1, 2, 3, 4 down there. Here's another great part too. So row 3 is for people that have already bought tickets and are waiting in line just to meet him. Row 4 is for people that haven't bought tickets yet and are waiting in line to buy tickets just so they can get in fucking line 3. That's how this was ran. So I'm waiting in this line, and in row 3, And it's not that long, if I'm being honest. I would say the line was about 30 feet. But I waited an hour probably before it even moved. We're in a fucking basement. It's the loading dock. This was the loading dock of this freaking convention center where the trucks come in and stuff. It is hot as hell. There's people all around me. I'm at this point like just trying to like play anything like on my phone to keep me from murdering somebody. Like it just thank God at some point Savannah and the kids came down and brought me like a water because I was like ready to and Steve and Dana actually came down too and like um we talked for a little while. So just anything to distract me from the rage that I was in. So this goes on for like an hour, I said. And then the line gradually starts to move. And it moves pretty quick after that. And you have to go back up and then get back into the little Z line that's in front of his table. And the people in front of me, this is how clusterfuck this was. The people in front of me got all the way up there. They were probably two people in front of me. They got all the way up there, and you'll never guess what happened. You probably will guess if you just think about how stupid that this idea is for the way they're doing this. They get all the way up there to the where the line would start to actually meet him, which is only about four little rows, 4 6 foot rows, I would say. They they get up there and they find out that they were in the wrong line because somebody told them to go to row 3, but they were supposed to be in row 4. They didn't have tickets. So guess what the fuck they had to do? They had to go all the way back down. If they wanted to meet him, they had to go all the way back down to row 4, go all the way through that row to get tickets to then get into row 3, which they were already in to get back up to meet him. If I was them in that moment, and they handled it really well, they just kind of walked off. And if I was them at that moment, I would have been like, I need your manager. I need the president of the convention center. I need Adolf Rupp to come back to life and come down here before I turn this place into World War fucking two. Because if you think I came all the way up here after an hour and a half and then am going to go back down there for probably at least 2 more hours, you are out of your fucking mind. But they didn't do any of that. And luckily that didn't happen to me. Thank God, or I would have killed somebody. But so I got up there and actually got into his line, and that line moved pretty quick. So thus ends the nightmare experience that was um just the confusion and chaos of that whole thing. And the people at that table selling the autographs were like, you could tell they kept talking back and forth to each other, and people that were around them, the Nazi guys and stuff, and they were just like trying to figure out, okay, like they didn't know where people were supposed to be. They were trying to figure out where to put people. They didn't know what to tell me about like where to go, and that's why I stood there with my dick in my hand until somebody actually took me down to or made me go down to the spot where I was at. If anybody had told me any of that, you know, in the beginning, I would have already been down there. But nobody knew what was going on. Like one person didn't know what the next person was doing at any of that. And the one thing I hate worse than anything is these fucking volunteer guys with like attitudes about stuff. Like they are any part of anything going on. You're a volunteer, dude. Like nobody's paying you for this. And this is not like an episode of Cops. Like you're not a fucking badass. Like, so anyway, I'm in the Z line now. My blood pressure's going up just thinking about this shit. I'm in the Z line now. Um, and I'm finally starting to like calm down just because I can see that it's almost over. And in my mind, I'm like thinking to myself, this will be the last show that I ever do. Like 100%. Like I thought, I'm not sure what I thought coming back into it. I thought about meeting him. Uh, I guess I was thinking like this is one of the last like major horror directors. Like I've met Carpenter, I've met Romero, and I want to meet Raimi, and I've got to do it. So, but it kind of like reinforced the fact that I never need. I'm too old for conventions. I am too fucking like just angry when stuff doesn't go right, and too just I get too uncomfortable now to do stuff like that I used to in my 20s. So the line goes up there, and the dude like right in front of me is so killer. He pulls out like one of the Kondarian daggers that's like the size of the fucking table. Like it's in one of those. It's one of those. It could be NECA or one of those McFarlane toys or something like that. That's like in this giant box, and he pulls it out and he lays it on the table, and it's like the size of an actual samurai sword or some shit. And you can tell Sam Raimi's just like, what the fuck's going on? By the way, as I'm watching, him with his interactions with people when I'm in the line, he's one of the few people that I can honestly say looked genuinely happy to be at a convention. I've met a lot of people at conventions, and there's very few people who look genuinely like glad to be there. And he was one of those guys. Like everybody that walked up, he gave him a handshake, he smiled, he was nice, he talked to them like whatever they wanted to talk about. Like he was just, and his presence too was not like there was a dude like off to my right. I forget his name. It was like Anson Mount or something like that. I don't know who the fuck he was, but like his presence is the kind of thing that I'm used to at these shows. So he's all kind of like leaning back. He's kind of like looking at his phone. He's kind of like, stone faced and just kind of out of touch with whatever anybody's saying. And that's the kind of guy that I'm kind of like used to seeing at conventions. But Raimi was not at all like that. He was like leaning forward, no phone, talking to everybody that came up, paying attention to what was going on. Very nice, casual kind of guy. So I knew it was going to be good at that point. You can kind of tell when you see somebody like that. So I go up to him, and I've got this poster that's over here behind me. I've had this poster for 20 years, and it's signed by every other cast member and Tom Sullivan except, and Raimi was the only guy I don't have on this poster. Um, and so when I walked up to him, I was just like, I think I said, "Hey Sam." I was like, at that point, I was just beyond like formalities. I didn't call him Mr. Raimi or anything like that. I was just like, "Hey Sam." Shook my hand. I was like, "I've had this poster for 20 years, man, and like you're the last guy that I need to sign it." And he was like, "Oh, like he said, I'm honored that you've been a fan for this long. It's like it's great to meet you. Like I'm honored that anybody like likes these movies." I'm like, in my head, I'm like, "What the fuck?" And it kind of caught me off guard because of just kind of the way that he went about it. But I was like, I was like, "Yeah, man." I was like, I mean, these movies revolutionized the horror genre. And he was like, "Well, thank you so much for saying so. Um, it was great to meet you." He's like, "Do you want me to put anything on here? Like, what do you want me to write on here?" Something like that. And by the way, I didn't have any questions to ask him. If I would have had a question to ask him, he probably would have like answered the question. Uh, but I just didn't. I mean, I didn't have any like, how'd you get that? I knew all the shit. Like, how'd you get that blood to do that in Evil Dead 2 or something? Like, I know the shit. I've seen all the behind the scenes stuff, these movies and all this stuff. Um, so I was just like, yeah, I mean, if you could just put my name on there and just, write something about fake shimps, because that was always one of the coolest things that, kind of hidden jokes that he had in those movies. And he did, and we shook hands and then went on our way. But walking away from that experience, uh, meeting him, I was like, that's a good one to end on. Like, that would be the one that I would want to end on. Like, you meet somebody that's that big. Sam Raimi's probably worth maybe like $100 million. I mean, he's a producer mostly now, and a lot of the stuff that he produced makes a ton of money. Like that guy is like beyond rich. Which, by the way, this is a funny story too about him being that rich. He had what I think was a Secret Service agent behind him. Like that's the only way I can describe this guy. He looked um like a cross between Jesse the Body and Butterbean, like back in the day. And he had like an American flag pin right here, a three-piece, like, breasted suit. What a Service agent looks like, the glasses, the thing, the lapel. He had that guy like standing behind him. I'm like, this dude's probably hired like the fucking Secret Service or FBI to like be his security. Um, so walking away from that experience, like I was just kind of like, yeah, this is a good, and I'm not gonna meet anybody else. Like I'm not, especially anybody big, because I'm not going through that shit again, man. I'm just not gonna be walked around like cattle and shit anymore. That's a young man's game, and I'm not doing it anymore. But overall, that experience was great, and the experience with the family was great too. Like they had a lot of fun, and they saw a lot of cool stuff down there. That we gave them an opportunity to. This is what I don't understand about kids, man. I guess they're just too young, but we gave them an opportunity to either like just buy a bunch of shit or do photo ops or meet people or do stuff like that. Because the guy that played SpongeBob was there, and like they're all huge fans of SpongeBob, so it's like whichever one you want to do, we'll do it. And so they chose just to buy convention shit. So I was like, all right, yeah. Overall, though, the way the convention was executed itself, I give like a D minus, and the experience of meeting him, I'd give like an A. So let me get to a lot of questions on here, and I apologize. I just had to get through that story, or I was gonna like lose it in my head. Retro, or you say that I've got more patience than you. Yeah, I mean it was trying to say the least. Mayor says that this is the same shit that happened at Texas Frightmare. Hence, I didn't bother to meet Sam or Bruce, but I did get a sneaky selfie with Bruce Campbell. Yeah, the Secret Service dude was like staring down everybody in that line, and I was like, I didn't even have a chance to like take a picture or anything like that. Like, and normally I would do that. I've done that a million other times, but like this dude was like seriously. And I'm thinking to myself, if I get thrown out of here for any reason after I've gone through all that shit, like it will not be good. That's the thing, Rambo, about like how many shows have they done this Comic-Con to be this disorganized? There was a thing that they posted on Facebook where they were like, yeah, we've done, several shows that had this many people in it. And I'm thinking to myself, really? Well, you would think you would be better at it than this by now. Cause like if you've done a bunch of shows, that you're expecting this many people, I'd probably get a little bit more prepared than that. I don't think he was Maggot Fingers. I don't think that Raimi was aware of what was going on with the line because he was gone to photo ops up until about well, I was already gone. I was already down in the loading dock by the time he was brought up. So I don't think he saw any of the stuff going on. He just got there in time to see people standing in his one like front line in front of the table. Saturn Video. Who's next? Argento. Um, if Argento came, he's not coming to another show in the US, by the way. He's like 80 some years old. It's not going to happen. If Argento came to the US and I knew somebody at the convention who could get me in to see him either like by skipping the line somehow or another or through just like, backdoor means somehow I would do it. I would not, no, I'll not do that again. Now that I know what they're doing nowadays, fuck that. Hillbilly Confidential says, I went to a ball game once. One of those rental cops tried to kick me out because of when I got the food line where my friends were. He said I was cutting. Yeah, that's kind of what they do. Holy shit. Kelly Marcotte's in here? This ain't the real Kelly Marcotte. That's true, Kelly. The magic of conventions is for those people that don't know, Kelly Marcotte is the guy that did the End of the Pit documentary. And I haven't heard from Kelly in a long time, man. I hope you're doing all right. Kelly was with us back in I don't know what year that was now. I'm horrible with years, but we're talking a long time ago at a convention. Uh, and they were totally different back then, man. Um, I can't believe that people would really want to subject themselves to the way things are at these shows now. I hope this is I hope this is a joke, Blair. Meeting Kane Hodder's on your bucket list. Does he ever do conventions? I hope to God. I hope to God that's a joke. Yeah, he does like every one of them. John Hudson says your description of Samus Spawn, he could not have been nicer. The rest of the convention experience was total shit. I'm telling you, I'm not lying. If I'm lying, I'm dying. Sam sounds like a really cool guy. He was like the coolest guy that you I think the only guy that even would rival him in terms of guys like that that I met would be Romero. Like Romero was the same way. Like it didn't matter like what was going on or who was like there, how many people were there. If there was 2 people there, 100 people there, like that dude acted exactly the same. He was always nice. He always talked to you about whatever. Like he always like shake your hand and was glad. Like same kind of vibe. Yeah, that's true. Mayor says he met a guy that didn't charge him for a autograph. I miss those days. Those days don't ever happen anymore unless like oh, funny story though. About kind of like that. As we were leaving, we were walking right out the door. I walked like right past Danhausen, who was like just over there fucking looking at t-shirts and stuff. And like had we not been leaving and like been a hurry to get out of there, I probably would have just been like said something to him, just very nice, very evil or something like that. I should ask him to apologize for Spider-Man 3. Oh yeah, Rambo. Here's another thing too. The other guy that was there, the other big guy, I guess if you call that, was Kevin Smith. And his last year he was scheduled to be there, and his fucking something about his flight or something happened. I can't remember why he wasn't there last year. He no showed. This year his flight got canceled, and he didn't get there until Sunday. Supposedly his flight got canceled. He didn't get there till Sunday. So all those people that had tickets to meet him or whatever or do his shit on Friday or Saturday, like I don't know what they did, but they didn't meet him till Sunday. I know that. Um, which I wouldn't meet him at this point if he was standing across the street. I just don't have any interest in that guy anymore. Russ says Raimi's coming to the Denver Fan Expo. Meet him. Like if you can, if you want to stand in line and if you're able to do all that stuff, meet him because you won't regret that. Kids love crap. Yes, they do. How much did it cost to meet him? An autograph was $75, which is the second most I've ever paid for an autograph. Would anybody in here like to guess what the first is? I've paid more than that for an autograph one time. Brandon, that's exactly what I was saying. Why not just have this is the one part that I don't understand. In every other show that I've seen, okay, even if you wanted to make people like wait because the convention was too jammed up. By the way, the room they had all those celebrities in was way too fucking small. Like it was one of the smallest rooms in that whole place, and they had like almost every celebrity jammed into that fucking place to where like you couldn't walk in the lines. It was just stupid. But anyway, like the question is, why not just have somebody like taking ticket and giving tickets out and taking money like there at the table, and then if you want to keep people downstairs, you can do that. Why even add in the bullshit of having like pre-sale tickets? Like I don't understand that at all. Like one more step to go through. Yeah. John says this is the first convention they attended that felt like work. It was a miserable experience. Kelly's doing fine. Yeah, the CK and I are all grown up now. No, it's basically exactly the same, to be honest, Kelly. Mayor says he had friends that yeah, there were Carpenter did this same thing too at Fright Night, I think. He would stand outside and like smoke cigarettes and people would just come up to him and he because that guy smokes like a freaking freight train, or he did. I don't know if he quit now. Uh, that's it. You win the prize, John, and other John, Movie Junkie John, and John Hudson. I'm pretty sure Jamie Lee Curtis was $80. Which, if you think about that now, to give you some context, um, Warwick Davis was $120. So back when I met Jamie Lee Curtis, who just won an Academy Award, by the way, I spent $80. Warwick Davis is now charging $120 and $120 for a photo op too. Um, that tells you how shitty things have gotten. I would love to have a live chat with Sam Raimi at some point. I doubt seriously that'll ever happen though. The mayor, I seriously doubt that she'll ever do anything like that again, especially now. Robert England Carlos was at different points in time when I met him. The last time I met him, he was $50. Um, and I think I got two things signed. I hear he's charging like over 100 and some now, like which is fucking stupid. Brandon, yeah, the super chat. Sorry about that. I've watched a couple of trailers for the new Renfield movie. I really like that guy that plays Renfield. He was in the Menu, and to me, he was like one of the best parts about the Menu. I thought he did a great job to where you just hated that guy so much in that movie. I don't know. Nick Cage is like hit and miss in anything. Like he's either going to be like way over the top and it'll be stupid, or it'll be way over the top and it'll be great, like it was in like Willy's Wonderland or something like that. Like he doesn't really have like a second gear. It's either first or fifth. He's gonna fucking do one of those two. So I'm hoping that it's a good film. I think it will be just based on the Renfield character alone. I think that guy's a great actor. Jarno says you met Raimi back in 2019. His autograph was $50. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's 75 now. That's considering the fact in the last 4 or 5 years, a lot of these people's autograph prices have doubled or sometimes even tripled. Like, I mean, you got to consider. Let's take somebody like take Kane Hodder or somebody like that. When we first met him, his autograph was I think either $5 or $10. I don't know what he's charging now, but I'm betting it's between 50 to $80. Robert England was $25 when I first met him or saw him anywhere. Um, let's see somebody else that always does conventions. Um, Savini was free. Savini was signing shit free. So at that point in time, yeah, yeah, yeah. Alyssa Milano. That kept rolling through my mind too. I'm like, dude, like you just had a show canceled on Disney Plus. Nonetheless, like, do you need to be charged 100? Oh shit! Here's another funny side story to that though. I'm sorry, but this idea fucking killed me. I know I'm going to hell or whatever. It's just a funny visual. Like, try not to laugh at this story, okay? I didn't see this. This was told to me by Savannah and the kids. So apparently, after they came downstairs to the loading dock and brought me the water, um, they went back upstairs, and you have to go through this like back hallway that leads all the way around the convention center, which I guess was how the celebrities were getting from like the photo ops to the celeb room or whatever. So I suppose because Warwick Davis is a very small guy, even for small guys, he's a very small guy, that it's very hard for him to get around. He's probably got hip dysplasia or something like that. Anyway, Warwick Davis, I can't ever tell this story. Warwick Davis was riding on a hoverboard. He had his own hoverboard. So he's flanked by security, and he's like going up and down this hallway on a light up hoverboard. One of the ones that has like the LED lights like all around it. I don't even talking about one because I asked this. I'm like, was it one of the ones that you can like, like hold on to? No, it was just like a hoverboard, like one of the ones that you have to steer with your feet. I'm like, that image is amazing. Just the thought of that alone is amazing. But also, like, can you imagine if you were like super high and you were at that show and like Warwick Davis flew by you on a fucking hoverboard that like lit up? I mean, or what are those called? It's called a hoverboard, isn't it? Like it has the two wheels on the side and like it looks like a skateboard in the middle, and you just go forward. Isn't that a hoverboard now? Whatever the fuck those things are called. You know what I'm talking about. I think it's a hoverboard. But I would have given anything to not been in that line to have seen that, but I didn't see it. I don't know how Warwick Davis is as a like to meet or anything like that, but the kids and everything were saying like he looked like he was super kind of like enthusiastic and psyched. And I guess if I was charging $120 for signing my shit, which if you think about it is almost double of what Raimi was charging. How fuck does that make any sense? The Boba Fett say Raimi was $50 each at Flashback Weekend, and Bruce and Raimi were $50 each. I can't even remember what Bruce was back in the day when I met him in 2005, so I don't even remember. No, not 2005. I'm sorry. Uh, yeah, I'm right. 2005. Before we started the show, probably. So Kelly says that Toby Hooper was $25 to sign the poster. I'm looking at it right now. My Texas Chainsaw poster, Kelly. Thank you for that, as always. Um, yeah. So was Romero. Like Romero, when we met him, was $20 or $25 back in 2005, 2004. Uh, will folks be in row 3 or row 4 when we do a convention? Who comes up with this shit, man? Just ways to torture people. That's one of the things I was thinking when I was down there in that line. I'm like, why do people like us, like nerds, like willingly torture ourselves for this kind of stuff? Like, life is so short, and here we are, like standing in this fucking line in a basement. It's like 100 degrees. Everybody's miserable. I don't know. Just having like an existential moment there. Scream Bloody Gore says that he met Linnea Quigley and she signed the Night of the Demons and Return of the Person for free. Yeah. I had a lot of people like back when we first did conventions, like almost everybody we got, like Greg Nicotero was signing shit for free. Savini was signing shit for free. If anybody was charging, they were usually charging like $5 or $10. And we're at the point now where it's like you can't even $5 or $10 if you even want to like look at them. Russ says he was looking at Bruce Campbell for a guest, and he wanted $50,000 for 6 hours, and one of those hours was an hour lunch. Yeah, this is another thing I was thinking about too, Russ. I don't know how much Sam like I don't know how this works, and I was really curious about this too. Like I know a lot of these guys, you pay them a flat fee, right? And then it's up for the convention to figure out like how to make that money back. Like, so they've got to sign X amount of autographs at X price and do so many photo ops at X price to make that money back and make any kind of profit, I'm assuming. But I don't see how they do it a lot of times. Like, because then you get in situations, I imagine, where you've got to do shit like what they were doing at this Comic Con, which is you've got to make people miserable by having so many people there, like in doing all this bullshit stuff to make that money back. So, I mean, are there other ways that you can do this, or are all these guys just like, I need a guaranteed like 50,000, 25,000, whatever? Like, and I was curious about the ins and outs about how that kind of works at this point. Me, CK and Uncle. Oh yeah, we'll be doing photo ops at Scarefest just for like you have to get in row 3 and 7, and we're gonna be charging $80. And it's 160 if you have more than 3 people. Just want you to know that ahead of time. What the? I hope to God this is fake. Miguel Nunez shouldn't want fucking $15 for his autograph. That guy sucks. Rambo says, in seriousness, do you think one day enough people will have enough in convention? No. I used to think that. Like, I used to think there's no way people are going to like tolerate this anymore. But I've come to realize something here in the after COVID and everything too. People are paying for an escape. That's what they're paying for more than meeting these people or anything like that. What they're paying for is escape from like real life, and meeting these people that create all these fantasies and things like that is like a huge part of that escape. Nostalgia is what is getting cashed in on. And at this point, people are so miserable and like everything that happened with COVID and the way things are going right. Think about it this way. This is a good way to look at it. The worse things are, the more popular conventions are. And that's just one way to look at it. Um, the worse the economy is, the worse that you think it would be the opposite. You think people would be saving money and like not wanting to spend it on stuff like this. But actually they're spending more money just to be able to forget about how shitty like regular life is. And that's what makes these conventions work. Uh Russ says most of the guests want a guarantee amount, and so what the autograph prices is what justifies trying to pay their. That's what I'm saying. So the more their guarantees go up, the more the prices of the autographs have to be pushed up. But it just baffles my mind to think about somebody like somebody like a oh Jesus, let me think of somebody that Andrew Bernarski, like somebody like an Andrew Bernarski comes in and they're like, I want $10,000 guarantee. Like, does that really happen, or are people just like, I can't imagine that happens. Like, do all these people have guarantees like that, or some just like, hey, I'll just come in and like, whatever I make, I'll give you half of it. Or there's got to be some kind of deals like that going on. I would about 100% guarantee, Blair, that the nicest Dead Pit member to meet in person would probably be Garrett. I would I'd put Yeah, I'd put money on that. Does Clive Barker do conventions still? I don't think so. There was one he did. I wish I could think of this. If Wes is in here, he could probably remember it. There was one he did a while back, and this has been years and years ago. And there was all these rumors and stuff about how sick he was, and that he was just like all, like barely able to do it and all this stuff. I don't know what was going on with that, but that was the last one I can remember hearing anything about him. Was anybody peacocking around? No. No, nobody was peacocking. Uh, let's see. Movie Jackie John says Nick Castle is going to be on convention here in a few weeks, so he's good. Yeah, yeah, man, that would be a cool guy to meet too. I don't either, man. Like I used to be insane about this kind of stuff. I don't get all. This is the first autograph I've bought. I think Wes has bought autographs since I've bought autographs. That's how long it's been. And if you, in terms of like going up to somebody at a convention and buying an autograph, it's it's been a long time. Unless I'm forgetting somebody, which is possible, but Raimi seems like a cool dude. Seen a lot of his signs. I hope he gets more directing gigs. Yeah, me too. Like I mean, if he's genuinely that nice to his fans, then he's probably pretty nice to work for too. So yeah, Wes says last time he bought autograph was Scarefest 2015. If that gives you any idea how long it's been since I bought an autograph, then Russ says guarantees like Bernarski's really. It just blows my mind, man. Um, looking at that amount of people though at that show, I can easily see how that. I mean, you could make money doing that. Like, there's no, like, even if these guys wanted guarantees that were like 25, $50,000, a lot of that stuff, you could easily make that. There were so many people. There were thousands upon thousands of people at that show. And they're all spending money like maniacs. Like everybody's doing photo ops. Everybody's doing. You would think this stuff would be, $120 for a photo op. You would think people would be, but like I said, man, the worse shit is, the better these shows do. Steve is the most friendly Dead Pit cast member. Um, who do you have the most autographs of? Probably the Dawn of the Dead guys. Because I've got like three or four different. Like I've got a Dawn of the Dead poster signed by the entire cast. I've got the Dawn of the Dead clay like head signed by all of them, and then I've got like that behind me over there, which is the Dawn of the Dead like anniversary kind of smaller poster signed by the whole cast too. Have I ever seen a celebrity pissing in the bathroom? Yes. What is the dude's name? Somebody help me. The guy that wrote Final Destination. Him and I pissed together and had a talk at at Darkwoods. What the fuck was that guy's name? The guy that wrote Final Destination. Somebody help me. That's I forgot about Tiffany Shepard's West. You're right. Yeah, we've all Jeff Reddick. Yeah. Oh, dude. I mean, the convention experience. That word, by the way, gets thrown around a lot. The convention experience. Um, If you want an experience that I would imagine would be akin to, like, being in jail in the holding room, you know that place where they put you before you actually go to a cell? Uh, just a holding area where there's, like, 50 people that are all in one spot, and they're all, like, sweating and uncomfortable and just jammed in there together. If you want an experience like that, then that's the convention experience. What's up, Twisted Trucker? Oh, this is a good question. No, I've never wait, yes, I have. Yes, I have. I almost said this, and this was not true. I went to one wrestling convention, and that was the one that, CK and I did years and years and years ago. I don't remember what the name of it was, he probably does. Um, that's where we met Flair, we met the 4 Horsemen, Benoit and Woman was there, Mick Foley, um, there was some more people too, but we've got a picture somewhere of us with, like, Benoit and Woman, and it's just kind of disturbing. Non-horror, which passed away celebrity would I like to get an autograph from? Non-horror. Oh, okay. Deceased non-horror celebrities. Frig, man. There's a lot of them, really. Um, I know this is gonna sound crazy, um, but, like, a lot of the big movie star guys from, like, an era completely different from mine, I would have loved to have got, like, Jimmy Stewart, John Wayne, um, Bruce Lee. Those would have been amazing. Um, any of those guys. Doug Bradley did Whorehound. Yeah, I met Doug Bradley twice. Um, he's very dry, very British, and very just like, "I'm just here." That was the impression I got. Like, I didn't get a whole lot of Ashley Lawrence is amazing. She's, like, super nice, friendly, kind. Doug Bradley is just, hit it and quit it, whatever you wanna say. He does not seem to care. No, I've never Preminator, like, that's one group I've never because that didn't really get popular, like, them all showing up and doing, like, these reunion shows until after I was done with, like, going to shows. So, the Screamcast, I've not met. I don't think I met any of them. Come think of it. I'd like to. I think it's kinda pointless now, though, that Craven, is gone. Yeah, the photo op was great, though. I just walked in there, and we pointed at each other. It was a good time. Photo op. So, this makes sense. Shatner apparently is known to make $100,000 for guarantee at conventions. How much shit would how much okay, first of all, how much would he charge? 200? You'd have to, right? You'd have to be above, like, 2 to $300 to make that anywhere near that back. If he just sat there and signed the whole time. I know Hogan charges some obscene amount of money when he does conventions, like 250 or 300, something like that. So I imagine Shatner would be stupid money. Ah, yeah, the Pillman Memorial Show. How the fuck did I forget that? Yep. That was the convention that we went to, the wrestling convention. Savage would have been an amazing one to meet. Can you Piper was amazing, Roddy Piper. Like, um, he was just exactly kinda what you would want him to be too, like super high energy, talk about whatever. I asked him about the, Morton Downey Jr. segment, and he talked about that for a while and kinda just was all over the place talking about stuff at that point too. He was great. What's up, Killer Pizza? Twisted Trucker, I had him sign my Evil Dead poster that was signed by the entire cast and, Tom Sullivan, and he was great. I couldn't recommend meeting anybody more. Oh, Rambo, yeah, I didn't see that question, but yeah, Piper was one of the top ones. Thoughts on Yokozuna? Underrated, still to this day, great big guy until he got, like, way too big there towards the end. Um, didn't necessarily like the fact that he tried to kill jobbers, but other than that, Lou Temple he was always a nice guy. Lou Temple was one that we got through the mail, and we've seen him at, like, a million shows before too. Who was the biggest I don't think I can post this on here. Who was the biggest, negative person at a convention? Who was the worst person at a convention? See, that just depends on, like, how you wanna look at it, because, like, I have expectations for a lot of people and some I don't have any expectations for, so, like, to me, the worst experience that I ever had was Savini, just because, like, that was the first show we'd ever done. That was the first convention we did, and he was one of the first people that we ever tried to meet like that, and he was huge to me in terms of, like, just influence and, like, his work and everything like that. So, the fact that he was just so douchey and just kinda, like, whatever you wanna say, just disengaged with the conversation and, like, doing whatever else, and we're talking this is early on, man. I'd say Savini probably did conventions for a long time when he wasn't really doing anything else, but we're talking 2004 was when that show was, so, fast forward 18 years, I mean, either one of 2 things has happened, either he's gotten so much shit that he's better now, or he's just completely toasted and burned out. Um Yeah, you're right, Garrett. Like, he was standing up the entire time. That was another thing about, Piper too. Like, he stood in front of his table, he never sat down, and he would always, like, greet you when you came up, like, shake your hand. You notice stuff like this from people when you go to these shows. CK would probably say that, Scott. Radkins, what would it take for me to consider going to another show? I'll go to other shows. Like, I went to, excuse me, Scarefest last year. I'll go to Scarefest this year. It's nothing for me to go to these shows because I enjoy, like, buying shit. I enjoy, like, walking around and seeing other people and stuff. Um, the real question is what would it take for me to ever, like, wait in line to meet another celebrity? And it would nothing. Like, I don't give a shit who it is. In my mind is seared waiting in that loading dock in the bottom of a fucking building with, like, 500 other people sweating my ass off. It ain't never gonna happen again. As George W. Bush once said, "Fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice, shame on all of you. Fool me again, yada, yada, yada." I didn't know this. Mayor says during the lockdown, Jennifer Tilly did free autographs by mail. I just got one before she stopped doing it. That's really cool. Killer Pizza. I guess I'll just answer whatever the fuck comes up now. What's your favorite segment from Creep Show 1 or 2? Probably the Lonesome Death of Jordy Verrill is probably my favorite. What's up, Gary Blow Jr.? I do too, Carlos. Going to conventions and finding one sheets, they used to have like these dudes. One dude in particular that we always hated was that guy that like runs Cinema Wasteland because he's just you talk about an abrasive like dickhead of a guy. Like, and I'm pretty sure he got off on that anyway. Like that was kind of his gig. That was his gimmick or whatever. But he always had like tons of posters and stuff like that. So I always had to like go be around him because I was super into posters at that time. I don't think he ever does shows anymore, thank God. But like they're not around here anywhere. But he used to do them all over the place and he would constantly be around. That guy was just you try to ask him a question, he'd just be the biggest asshole ever. So I hope he's doing well in whatever shape he's in at this point in his life. This is a good one, yeah. The only, way I maybe consider going to a convention is Jean-Claude Van Damme was there and maybe sign my Hard Target later. I don't know if I've ever known that dude to do a show. If he did though, that would be insane. It would be something like San Diego Comic-Con if he ever did one though. It would be something huge. He could probably get off easily on like a 50 to $100,000 guarantee. I'd say he'd make that back easily. Yeah, I mean, Jake, I'm really being honest about that when I say I hope he's doing well. Like that was 15 years ago. The guy was a douchebag. He's probably still a douchebag, but what are you gonna? I hope he's all right. I hope he's doing good. I don't wish any ill will on anybody at this point, except there's a couple people. I'll just keep that to myself. Preminator says he never thought about meeting actors except for maybe Arnold. I got to meet him one day. He's up there in age now, which scares me. Oh, you've got to meet him. I thought you meant that you met him. You're saying that you've got to meet him at one point or another. Yeah, I mean, that'd be a tough dude to get to meet, though. I would imagine the only way to do that would be to either go through some sort of like bodybuilding show or something like that. That would probably be like one of the only ways. And he where he's doing, or if he does a book or something like that. Jake, does Lloyd Kaufman ever turn off the carnival barker persona? No, 100% no. Radkins, this guy I would love to meet. I've never met him. Frank Henlotter is coming to Knoxville in a few months for a con. I would love to meet him. Here's the thing about him too. There's no way there'll be a huge line to meet Frank Henlotter. Nobody even fucking really knows or cares who he is at this point. I love him, and there's a lot of people in the genre that know about the genre that love him, but he would just not have a huge line. So that would be cool. Did I like the Masters of Horror series? That was the series back when we were doing the show. Um, yeah, it was like one of the best of that type of show that has been out in the modern era anyway. So Tales from the Dark Side back in the '80s and things like that. But Masters of Horror was so cool because of the idea behind it, where it was like a different director that was influential in some way or another did an episode of this, and a lot of them were really good. Some of them were shit, but it was a good idea and I enjoyed it. Yeah, Rambo. I could totally see this too, saying that be like when Sylvester Stallone 395 for an autograph, 445 for a photo. I guarantee you there are people lined up around the block to pay that too, because he's that big of a star. Right? Arnold could do the same thing. He could easily charge $300 or $400, and people would do it. Oh, Garrett, you met Henlotter. Well, that's good. And I was right. There was no line. Yeah. Yeah, that would be a good show idea too, just to review the Masters of Horror series. Mm. You would like an ill will list video of people that I have ill will towards? At this point in my life, that would be a short video. Uh, if I'm missing people's comments, I'm sorry, but they're going by pretty quick. Preminator says he met Gary Busey and he's not a pleasant person. Yeah. I think it was old Curly Jaws that was talking about meeting Gary Busey, and he was so fucked up that he like dropped a banana on the floor and like got down on the floor and tried to eat the banana off the floor. And this was just, before all that happened with the groping incident and whatnot. Gary Busey, if you hire Gary Busey to come to a convention, you got to know he's not going to be stable though. Like that's the last thing in the world anybody expects from Gary Busey. What are my thoughts on the upcoming Brian Fuller Friday the 13th series? I have very low expectations about anything to do with any franchise titles at all. So I just I don't get excited about any of that stuff anymore. From the stuff that I've seen through this franchise stuff, it never lives up to anything. No, this is Jake. This is a good question too. I've never met Barbara Steele, and I'll tell you why. Because Barbara Steele looked like she wanted to murder you. I've seen her at a couple of conventions, and every time I've seen her, she looked like she just ate a baby and then shit out thumbtacks. That's how she looks. She is the most sour looking, like, so I never had the balls to walk up to her because I was just like, this is not going to be a pleasant experience. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't think I am. If anybody's met Barbara Steele, like I feel like that probably did not go well for you. She's wearing fucking sunglasses too. That's another dead giveaway. It's not going to go well. Like it's in a brightly lit room in the middle of the day and you're wearing sunglasses. Yeah, a lot of people saying Gary Busey's a dick. How do I feel about Gary Astor? It'd be killer if his name was Gary Astor. If we ever do anything else, any other fucking like skits or anything for Dead Pit, I want the director's like fake name to be Gary Astor. Sounds like somebody be down here at the fucking like barbershop. Yeah, we're going down there to Gary Astor's to get our haircut. Um, how do I feel about his new film being 3 hours long? All of his films feel like they're 3 hours long, so I don't think it'll be any different. I like his films, but they're all like super slowly paced. Barbara Steele is a talented actress, I'll say that. Felissa Rose, I met, Jesus, 2000, somewhere between 2004 to 2006. And she's another one that like is insanely energetic and like really, really nice. I think she gave me like free stuff from her table and like free like autograph stuff. It was like it was either 5 or 10 bucks at that point in time. So she was that's another one that's like incredibly nice if you get a chance to meet her. When are we coming to California for a meet and greet? I don't know, man. The economy and money is tight right now. I didn't know this. Already the Rugged Man hooked us up with Ken Lauder. I talked to him on the phone twice. He kept going on about being a rapper. It's like, whatever. Oh, Brandon Mosley, um, the show experience was awful. It was way too crowded. Nobody knew what was going on, and it was a cluster. The experience of meeting Sam Raimi was amazing. That's the best way I can explain it in short. I heard about this, Brandon, the Angry Troll, the Evil Dead Rise premiere. Somebody was talking about this at that show. When I was standing in line, there was just people talking like around you and stuff. Like one of them was talking about this. So apparently he gets up at the premiere and starts screaming shit or something like that at the screen. I haven't seen it. I'll probably watch it at some point here soon. Pablo, are we coming to the Pasadena H45 convention? God, I wish. I sincerely doubt that, but that would be amazing to do. Because for one thing, Tony Moran's not going to be there. Sean Clark is going to be there, which would be awesome. Um, and just the convention experience itself. But I don't know, man. It's hard to get everybody together. Yeah, she was behind me the whole time, Princess Puffins. It's hard to get everybody together to do anything like that far away. Yeah, the mayor, I don't think she really gives that much of a shit about like charging and stuff like that. And she never did seem to really, or like what she does, or like some people are super strict about that. Like you can't take a photo, you can't fucking breathe, you can't walk forwards 2 steps, you gotta like whatever. Like there's all these rules. She doesn't seem to strike me as one of those people that cares about any of that stuff. Twisted Trucker says Felissa Rose, Camille Keaton, and Harry Manfredini were the coolest people he ever met at a con. I could see those being, yeah, definitely Harry and Felissa. I've never met Camille Keaton. I don't think she's ever done any shows around here. Um, and I don't really know a whole heck of a lot about her. And so that's a good part, though. I mean, for those people that are in here, um, who are like the best and worst people that you've met at shows? This dude, who I don't even really know who he is, but he says it's Roger Ebert. He says he met Virgil. I hope that's true. How did that go? So the story about the Evil Dead Rise troll is apparently he yelled out something before the video. He yelled out that the movie sucked, and then I guess Sam Raimi and Bruce Campbell were there, and like Bruce Campbell was pissed off, and Sam Raimi thought it was funny, which sounds about right. Yeah, I've met Bruce Campbell too, and he seems like a super overly serious, kind of like smart ass douchey guy. Whereas Sam Raimi seems like he could give a shit less about any kind of negativity anyway. I've never been impressed with Bruce Campbell, by the way. Not in meeting him or like really his career. I'm sorry too. Holy shit. That's a good point, Romero. I'd forgotten about this meeting her because that would have been in 2004. But she was one of the best. Yeah, she was absolutely like a sweetheart of a person. Lori Cardille. Um, I just remember like she was super like welcoming, super nice, and she also like wanted to make sure that like whatever that she put on there, like whatever she did with your stuff, that it was the right thing and that you were cool with it before you left. Lance Henriksen, I saw him last year at Scarefest talking to fans, and it seemed like and there was really not that many people there to meet him, like maybe a 4 or 5 people in line, and he was just like you would have thought that he was their uncle or something like that. Romero says worst was Tom Savini by a mile. Yeah, I can see that. Fright Night Film Fest. Yes, 1750 films. Are you asking like what the Fright Night Film Fest is? It was, I don't know if it still is, it was a convention in Louisville. Edward Herman, I've never even had the opportunity to meet him, but I would. Was the best he ever met at a con, class act and a nice guy. Judith O'Day was incredibly sweet. I can imagine that. Savini, the mayor, the thing about it is with Savini, I've heard different people say that ever since he started to get like a bad rap for being a dickhead, that he kind of like changed. Um, and depending on who you ask now when they meet him, like some are positive, some are negative, but he definitely seemed to put some sort of effort into it after he started to get like a really bad name. Mark says he stayed away from Savini, the worst person. Really? The cigarette smoking man was the worst? You got to tell me this story. Like, you got to top this story out. Why was he the worst? Sean S. Cunningham. Carlos says he was great at a small convention. We talked for 30 minutes since nobody was there. Shit, yeah, Kelly. Sharon and Clayton Hill. They were like two of the nicest, most like down to earth people. And for those people that don't know, they were the respectively, they were the nurse and like the sweater zombie from Dawn of the Dead. And I saw her the year that he passed away too, and it was so sad. It was like one of the saddest things. Like she was still out there and he wasn't there, and it was like completely different. Yeah, this kind of backs me up here, Garrett. Edward Herman was amazing. He met Savini twice. First time he sucked, and the second time he was fine. Yeah. Brandon, yeah, that's what we were just talking about. Like Raimi, super nice guy, one of the best that I've met. Scott says he had a bad experience with Tuesday Night. Not really she said signing at Dark Delicacies. All the composers were signing a mini poster for free. She signs it, then demands money for it. I can see that. Oh, I could totally see that. She was she is what she is. I mean, there's no sense going into that. Sarandon is kind of give or take. Are you talking about Chris Sarandon? I met him. Yes, I met him. 2007, 8-ish, somewhere around in there. I just remember him kind of being like odd and aloof, but not horrible or anything. Raggins wants to know when the spin the wheel episode's dropping. Wes, you piece of shit. I was thinking about that today. I was like, we did that, and then now we got to like we need to do the show at some point. John Cusack, I could totally see him being like kind of introverted just from the way he acts. Chud City says Diane Franklin was amazing or super nice, and Sid Haig was always amazing. I've never met Diane Franklin. She seems like she would be nice. Joe Bob, listen, when I met Joe Bob, I'm not saying he was or anything. I'm just saying that it appeared to be that he was in an impaired state because I handed him money. First of all, his eyes were like were about to roll back in his head, but secondly, Like, when I handed him money, he couldn't count it. Like, I needed change, and, like, he, like, fooled around with it forever until somebody, like, had to help him, like, count the change bag. So, I don't know what the hell was going on with him at that time, but it was an odd experience. Ozzy was funny. Before going to sign my Osmosis album, he threw his market across the room and then ran to the bathroom. Hmm. Ryan Ragin says Chris Sarandon was a dick when he made him too. Uh, I don't think he does that anymore, Carlos. Maybe he does. I don't see it anymore though. So Kane Hodder used to do this thing where he would, whenever you got a picture with him, he would be like, well, fuck, this was back in the day when you could actually get a picture with him, like at his table. God forbid. Um, he would be like, okay, do you want me to like choke you? And then not in a sexual way, but he would just be like, "Do you want me to, like, choke you out?" Or and then when he did it, he would be like, "Alright." He would be like, "You want me to fake it or do you want it to be real?" And so, most people trying to be badasses would be like, "Real." And he would really fucking choke you to the point where you would almost pass out, and it was a great picture. That's all I can say. Charlie says, "I would have loved to met this guy too." That, My Bloody Valentine director George Mihalka was incredibly nice. Mike says the best person that he met was Dimebag, and I could see that too. I've always heard good stories about that dude. I don't think I've ever heard any bad stories about him. Like, I've never heard a negative experience from somebody that actually met him in person. There were complaints about the choking. Look, man, like, if somebody asks you, "Do you want me to choke you?" And you're like, "Yeah," and then you're like he asked, "Do you want it to be, like, real?" And, like, you're like, then you don't really have any reason to complain. What's up, Tanya Brown? If we did a convention, if we ever did do a horror convention, it would be amazing. I just know it would, because we've been to enough of them. We know how to run it, and, like, we know, like, who we would wanna be there. We don't have the kind of money to do a convention, I can tell you that. God, I didn't know this, Garrett. Hodder doesn't do shit anymore because at the last convention he was at, he cut a dude's arm with a machete and had to go to the hospital. Mm. Okay. So Mark says the story about William B. Davis is kind of a long story. I'll tell you the full version on the next X Files live stream. Short version of it: William B. Davis wouldn't speak to me. It was like having a conversation with concrete. Jesus, dude, that's depressing. But that happens, man. Like, you meet a lot of people that you really look up to, and like some of them kind of suck. Brandon says he met Vinnie Paul once and he was cool. I imagine he would be cool too. I know a guy once asked, "Do you really think you should have been in the remake?" And when they did the photo, Kane choked him really hard. Probably should laid off stuff like that. Twisted Trucker asked, "Do you think that the price of these autographs go for these days and conventions in general are even worth it?" No, no, God, no. Like, if the question is, do I think the prices of these autographs will actually be worth some like more than what you're paying for? No. Please God, do not go into these shows with the false impression that these autographs will actually be worth something someday, because they won't. They just won't. There's so many of these autographs. These guys, especially the people that do the circuit. Now, maybe like a Raimi or like who's somebody else that never does shows? Like Jamie Lee Curtis, somebody like that, maybe. But if you're talking about Kane Hodder, Robert Englund, uh, any of these people from these main franchise, that's never going to be worth anything. It's flooded. The market is flooded with those. They'll never be worth shit. Um, do I think conventions? It's weird because like 10 years ago, I would have said absolutely not. Like conventions are worthless for any reason, and they're like carnivals because they're just there to like take your money, which they still are. But the only difference now is like I've come to terms with just kind of the fact that they're taking advantage of people who have like a sickness almost. Um, but there's another aspect of it too, to where if you and your kids and stuff like that are into the same shit and you want to go to a show and just kind of like hang around and you're able to kind of control that part of yourself, then it's a good time. If you're obsessive and clearly kind of have like an illness and you go to these shows and wait in line 4 or 5 hours, to complete some sort of like, you know, poster or something like that, probably not a good idea. Kelly, I wish you the best, man. I hope you're doing well in the frigid state of Wisconsin. If you're still in Wisconsin, but yeah, it's good to see you, hear from you. Oh yeah, Brad Dourif and Michael Bean. I would still like to meet both of them. Is Michael Bean still alive? I know Brad Dourif is. I think Michael Bean is. Charlie, I feel like Brad Dourif always kind of like seems like this, even like in everyday roles and stuff. So he probably would seem like that in person too. See, this kind of stuff I can't stand, to be honest. Kevin's Story Life says my local bookstore in 2005 or six had Jamie Lee Curtis in her book, and it was July, and she was waiting outside for 3 hours, and I brought my Halloween VHS, and she refused to sign anything. I can't even tell you how much I hate people that do shit like that. Like, man, who gives a shit? Like, these people have been waiting 3 or 4 hours, and like you won't sign anything related to a certain like what fucking sense does that make? I think Garrett, we all know that you have an illness, but also it's not as bad as some. There are other people that could be mentioned that will not be mentioned that are further along in the spectrum than you are when it comes to that particular illness. Charlie, yeah, you should have been around. I think that this is a pretty fair statement too. He said I started going to conventions same time Walking Dead got huge around 2012. I wish I would have been able to experience them before that. That show single handedly ruined conventions. I think that's the biggest part of it. I don't think anybody could really argue that point. I think even Sean Clark kind of knows that too. Um, that show and the fact that all those people, when it was huge, started doing those horror conventions and charging like obscene amounts of money, and then all these other, lesser known actors and actresses from the '80s and stuff saw that and were like, "Nah, these guys are just flash in the pan. We got to get like the same amount of money." That domino effect of that, I think, single handedly kind of ruined horror conventions. So thanks, Walking Dead. Not only did like 80% of the show fucking suck, but like also you ruined horror conventions for everybody. Yeah, Rackins, your father went to Horrorhound last year. It was interesting. He's not into horror, but he had a fun time. See, my dad went to a show with me in 2005, and he was into horror, and he met, like, Galen Ross and, Kim Foray and a couple other people 'cause he was huge into Dawn of the Dead too. Um, and he had a great time. I don't even think he knew anything like that existed at the time. Yeah, Rambo, I mean, I'm gonna be honest with you. I just be as honest as I can be about this. I think Jamie Lee Curtis is completely full of shit. Like, some of the stuff she says just does not match some of the stuff she does. I think, right now, since she did all those new Halloween movies and she won an Academy Award, I suspect she would charge around 150, like some 125 to 150, I would think. Yeah, on the flip side of this, that show pretty much probably put a lot of these like B, C level actors and actresses like kids through college. The Walking Dead probably helped put their kids through college with how much everything went crazy. Jake, listen, I did too when we met her, and we got her autograph for free because we knew the guy doing the convention, and she was super nice. Like I have nothing bad to say about Linda Blair. Like she was super nice to us, and she's got her quirks. She likes dogs and stuff a lot, and talking about animals, and she really doesn't want to talk about much of anything else. But I did not have a bad experience with her. It is crazy to think about that all these European horror films that used to be impossible to get. Like I remember the first time seeing like, you know, I remember seeing VHS tape of Zombie, probably in the late '90s, something like that. And I remember the first time that Wes got in like the DVD of like City of Living Dead. And it was like so mind blowing because you'd never seen anything like that. And now all that shit's on like it's on two or three different like 4Ks now. It's crazy, man. Hodder was the man back in the day. I don't know how he is now, but he was great. Yeah. He did a skit for us for the movie, or for the documentary, not the movie. Um, and like choked me out and everything. I mean, he was a hell of a guy to be like fun to be around. I would imagine that Barbara Crampton is amazing. She seems like just like one of the nicest people ever. I may have met her. I don't remember it. It's possible. Um, I know I met uh that's one that I never really even think about. Jeffrey Combs. I know I met him. I don't remember anything about it. I, I don't think I'm not positive he really even said that much of anything. Sean Patrick Flannery's awful. He made a comment about my wife's fake tits when she asked about powder. God. I don't think anybody cares about Sean Patrick Flannery anyway, so that's probably the best revenge against him. It's like, oh, powder. Let's see here. Well, I don't know, man. I guess that's it. Like, I don't know how else to end a show like this, really, because it was just kind of a throw together show. But I'm really, really like super impressed with how many people showed up and super like happy too. So thanks to everybody for popping on here and checking this out and asking questions, and thanks to everybody that watches the show and everybody that's on the Patreon. If you want to join the Patreon, like there's a lot of cool exclusive stuff there. Every single old episode of Dead Pit is on there now, the classic years. So go to deadpitonpatreon.com. That's one of the main things that I'll hawk because that is an amazing, amazing deal. For everybody that was interested in the X-Files show, we're going to do that next week. I haven't watched season 11 yet anyway, so I was trying to like get caught up on that. I watched season 10 and then kind of just cried for a while, and I'm trying to regroup myself. So we'll get to that at another point. Hello, Pecker Decker. I've always wanted to say that. And it's good to see you, but from the London Village, you're a little bit late. We're getting ready to end this one, but go back and watch the replay. Rambo, it's great to have you on here. Kelly, it was great to see you. Mark, everybody, Bradkins, all the people from the Discord, which if you want to join our Discord, please do that too. Go on Instagram. I got some pictures up of this poster. Trying to think what else. Something is coming up. Oh, yeah. CK's birthday bash is coming up on the 29th. So we're having a big birthday party bash for him. Check that out. He's going to ask for shit because he always does that. You know how he is. But yeah, good to have everybody in here. Check us out over at deadpit.com. I am Uncle Bill. Thanks for watching.
Give us the thumbs up.
Up your butts.
Like, subscribe. And if you subscribe, here's something else you can do. Once you subscribe, you can click the bell notification, right? And it'll notify you anytime that Dead Pit puts up new shit.
Or don't. I really don't give a if you do.
I want you to. I want you to.
I don't care.
Let's keep our community growing here on YouTube.
I don't like it. I don't want you to do nothing.
Listen, they need to do that, pal.
No, don't you dare touch it.
Thumbs up. Subscribe. And click that bell.
Hey everyone, it's Oak Early Jaws. We got some great shirts for you. We got Faces of Death Part 2. We got Creepy Stories to Tell in Kentucky. The Colonel would approve. We also got Deadpit.com. We got Deadpit Radio with the little fucking Deadpit dude on there. We got It Never Ends, a Halloween spoof parody of the new movie. We got It at Night. We got the Rat Pack, Uncle Rat himself. It just gets better and better, so go on and get you some shirts over at Team Public. It just gets better and better, boss.
Thank you to all of our supporters on Patreon. DeadPitOnPatreon.com is the only place to check out a complete archive of the old Dead Pit radio shows all the way back from 2005 on, in addition to the midweek shows and fan commentaries, exclusive podcasts, and much more. Dead Pit on Patreon.com if you're interested. Tiers start at only $1.